Our first feature of the evening is Lucia Coppola, originally from New York and has lived in France and California. She has had a professional background in dance and body techniques. Her teaching and creative work is inspired by nature, storytelling, music, and dance. She has worked for many years promoting the arts in public schools in France and created artistic projects with hundreds of young people. Over time, she has had the opportunity to meet many students from many contexts, cultures, and age groups. She enjoys using a variety of mediums to engage people in learning and artistic expression, making connection, sharing ideas, and celebrating life. Lucia's work has been read on the radio, published online, in print, and is also a soundtrack for a short film. Her first full collection of poems, Talking with Trees, was published by Plants and Poetry in the summer of 2022. Her second collection, Tempo, was recently published by Kelsay Books. Please give a warm, energetic Rivertown applause to the lovely Miss Lucia Coppola.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here reading. When I first came to California about 5 years ago, Rivertown Poets presented a kind of a landing pad for me as a poet, and I'm very grateful for that. I've been to many of the Zoom readings and really enjoy hearing everybody read. So I'm very happy to be here today to share my work with you. So I'm going to start by reading from Talking with Trees. Now this book, originally I started writing it when I was living in France about 15 years ago. I was doing quite a bit of journal writing, and I realized as I was writing my journal that I was actually writing a lot about nature, and very quickly my journal writing morphed into poetry. So I'm going to read you one poem from this book. It's a poem about a very specific memory where I was contra dancing in Paris. And this was about 15 years ago. And as I was dancing, there were many ideas that were swirling around in my head. And so this poem is called The Clearing. The Clearing. Our boots are clumped with mud, and on our backs we carry little wings. We gather for the circle dance, and sprouting roots we take hands in the round. But it's when the dance takes off that the journey really begins, with time reeling, thumping, treading towards the taking off of us with our wings into the air. Pirouetting with the beat, we skip with the glide, the float, and pause, as further down the earth has become a refrain. Point of stillness, darker, with a more introspective vibrancy, then silence, briefly pausing before the next upbeat and rest. The great adventure takes place in the air, where the song is best sung with lyrics implying questions about what may be the next stopping off. How long for each moment to weave itself like a tale of enchantment into that thing that laughs and sighs and weeps at night. Rituals of carnage, rituals of peace. This moment exists despite the possibility that severed heads may be on maypoles not so far away. We choose to be the antidote to the lynching mobs, to the townsfolk that taunt, torture, tease, and have the audacity to cast shadows. To them we answer stamping down upon the darkness as our laughter winds its way past dusk towards dawn, echoing between the Branle and the Gigue. Once again we hold hands, knowing never to forget. Dearly we pay for decisions we make, and dearly we pray. We stutter and we kiss. Does the realization of who we are now bring with it the gentleness of grace? Perhaps. At least the sun above and the water below will have touched, as again and again the circle is cast, and again we go round. How far are we then from those coldest of cold winter nights? Sweet pilgrimage with children, elders, and songs with truest meanings, sweet legs, feet, fingers that grasp this golden rule of our entwinement. Our sweat glistens like clouds that gather, then stream down with rain. For in this place the circle of light beckons with each rise and fall, quiet like the Empyrean echo of a bagpipe, a breath that billows and spirals round a core as rhythm calls to gather, rhythm calls to scatter, gather and scatter, then follows its way around again and back to a circular pause. So, music and dance are a very important part of my life. I danced for many years, and that's what brought me actually to France, where I lived for 35 years. But when I was a teenager, I listened a lot. I started listening to traditional music, traditional folk music, and so that stayed with me over the years. And my second book, Tempo, is inspired by traditional music. And the thing that I think really attracts me to that music is the way those songs, especially the ballads, tell very complex stories about human existence, but in a very short amount of time. And I feel that the songs really connect us back into the earth, but also into a much deeper part of ourselves. So I would like to read a poem here that is about a memory of going to an island off the coast of France when my children were very small. And at that time, we didn't, if we had cell phones, we didn't turn them on, and we certainly didn't have internet connections. And one of the things about the traditional ballads is that they are also very playful. So this particular poem is about is quite playful, and it's about how it's called Game of Three. Game of Three refers to rock, paper, scissors, which is a very old game that children play, in which rock, paper, and scissors represent different forces, and they're all vying to be more powerful than the other. But in my poem, I'm writing about water, grass, and fire. So this is called Game of Three, that are afraid of one another. Water. They've been out there for hours, kids building a castle with sunny sand that seems to drift from land as their arms flap around playfully. So I call out to them that when they lose footing, they'll find it hard to swim back from the currents and fun in water and sun. But there's too much elation for them to hear, and I've begun to feel helpless with a fast-growing fear. Grass. It's a balancing act of skill, I think, as I watch this child from the hill, and he steps on rocks at low tide, kite attached to wrist. He examines everything in the water's flow. I know he takes time to find the best stones with care. Put my hand up to cover the glare, noticing his green swim shorts match the gem he brings over now. His smile alone worth more than gold, and way of looking so clever. Fire. I have to say the glow on the dunes from this moon surprises as I peel an orange rind. Juice spurts into my eye with a sting and a taste that will linger into spring. A dusky clover tells how soon summer is over. So I savor my orange in the darkening blue and admit what today seems true. The moon's shine always wins over other sides. In this way she has to end the day, with a touch of the unexpected, how she trifles with the tides. So, several years later, we've been going to this island off the coast of France. We've been for many summers. And several years later, we went back also. This time my children were grown, and we did turn on our cell phones, and there was an internet connection. And it was the first time, this was about 5 years ago, that we were having conversations about global warming and climate change and the fact that internet had so much become a part of our lives. And we started asking ourselves, with the sea levels rising, would this island in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of France even be there 50, 100 years from now? So this is called Chronicle. There was a storm in my bed last night, or so I thought, as I huddled in at the soggy campground near the seaweed the tide brought up this morning, with a promise of sun, a last look at the tall grass, dunes, and what's written in sand. These are the days, and the sea levels are rising. Today, a visit to the village cafe and a friend who collects driftwood, shellfish, and wine tells a tale about a dolphin that lures him away like a sea spirit, captive of the bay, though to me he looks more like a drunken sailor or poet, as we too hope to surf a great wave as the island drifts farther and farther. Today, a poster reads, "It's the night of shooting stars, walking home by the shore with phones for flashlights, looking up at the sky one last time before we get on a train with a wish to return to this bay one day before all glaciers melt and coastlines disappear. Today, there's a disheveled woman at the station, homeless, with bags like seaweed scattered around her, and a dog that looks tired as she rants about being trapped in an automatic lavatory and how she hopes the engineer of the blinking buttons gets stuck in his own shit one day with a wake-up call. Today, what she says we confirm is true. This fear of devices that turn us into zeros and ones, reduced public spending, auctioning off of nature, and dreams of this earth one day, to get called out at high tide by a drunken sailor on a night of shooting stars and a homeless mermaid these days, where we've been and watched the sea levels rising. So when I came to California, this was about 5 years ago, I became very interested in wildfires. And I actually did some scientific research into wildfires. I was so curious to know how they work. And at the same time, I came across an Esselen tribe creation myth, and I found that the Esselen tribe creation myth actually, in many ways, taught me more about wildfires than the hard science of it. But in this poem, I'm sort of juggling with these different ways of seeing wildfires. A circle on a mound, washed up and crawling, hardened to clay in the limestone cast of a blossom, tanned and blanched by solar tides and fossilized. This is the hillside in sun patterns, weaving all things with myriad pigments of maize. Water mirrors the eagle that flies. Know these things, earth, water, wind, and that the child is born from water, eagle says to coyote, who is surprised to hear that where there's smoke, there's fire. A beautiful girl lives in the river, I tell you, he says. She will be your wife, serve you rainbows, run with your child through brush, pick nettle from your brow, but she will stay just hours before she rushes to sea, to be a sand flea, fleeting just as fast as she appears. Hummingbird has seen these things and sings to me about father and mother, how she crawled away from him in fear, with legs still splayed from giving birth, and how father now digs in a rage with abalone shells and sticks, calling to mother through trees, especially on hot, dry days. So the wind sometimes gets agitated. We must not forget. We come from water and winged, four-legged, two-legged, plants, rivers, veinous, running, dirt and sugar-flowing ones, near the pueblo, where we rub sticks together and keep the circle going until the snake slithers in and steals the flame, with no aim but to plunder and leave behind wilderness and hunger once all the animals disappear and ravens drop dead out of the sky in heaps from asphyxiation because of a flame gone wild, abandoned to a derelict version of itself run amok on a rampage. Spark and fire is the ruby red color of the hummingbird's throat, and proof that this part is not a dream, but a fact. Hot and cold are not the same thing, Raven warns from the tips of his wings. There are rules for the game of ignition, thermogenesis, frenzy, fury, blaze. The process comes with directions intended to make Coyote more clever, he says, at least enough to heed Raven from hilltops, where trees play stop, go, red light, green light, both colored branches seductively showing how, when, where to plant and sow, make Coyote blush proudly to know, to slow down the rush and kindle, stoke the hearth with soul, blood, tears, songs of earth that whisper with wind on the horizon, slow, quiet, mellow, warm, and blazing fire. So, the theme of love is obviously very much present in the traditional ballads, but so many emotions are there, and one of the things that's particularly beautiful is the way different parts of nature chime in a kind of a harmony. All of creation is on the same plane in these songs. So you might have a tree speaking, you might have a bird speaking, and a rock, and a flower, and a human, and other animals. And it's as though the harmony that they make by creating the song together is the universal truth that is being told. And I find that very inspiring. I thought that I would end by singing a ballad for you. So I brought my flute. I don't actually play the flute, but it helps me get on the right notes. I think you do. So this one is called Wild Mountain Time. Some of you may know it. Anyway, it's quite typical of the traditional ballads, and it really speaks about how the cycle of nature and time is so healing, and also about how we are really all part of the same living experience. And I find that very beautiful, particularly today, the message of community and love. So this is Wild Mountain Time. The summertime is coming, and the leaves are sweetly turning, and the wild mountain thyme blooms across the purple heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And if I should lose my lover, I would surely find another to pick wild mountain thyme all across the purple heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pick wild mountain thyme all across the purple heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And I'll build my love a bower near yon pure crystal fountain, and on it I will pile all the flowers of the mountain. Will you go, lassie, go? And if I should lose my lover, I would surely find another to pick wild mountain thyme all across the purple heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pick wild mountain thyme all across the purple heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And you can sing with me if you want. And we'll all go together to pick wild mountain thyme all across the purple heather. Will you go, lassie, go?